Imagine a boy with a slingshot facing a 3-meter giant, armed to the teeth. Everyone knows that story. David versus Goliath. The epic victory. The moment that defines heroes. Everyone knows that story. David versus Goliath. The epic victory. The moment that defines heroes. But what if I told you that Goliath wasn't David's greatest enemy?
What if the real giant, the one that almost destroyed him?
Stop and think. What's the giant you think you've already taken down, but that actually hides another, bigger one lurking?
In the book of 1 Samuel chapter 17, David defeats Goliath with unwavering faith, declaring that the battle belongs to the Lord. It was quick, impactful, like a lightning bolt lighting up the sky. David, a young shepherd, picked 5 smooth stones from a stream, refused Saul's heavy armor, and faced the Philistine who had terrorized Israel for 40 days. Goliath mocked him, calling him a little dog, but David replied with words that echo to this day. "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty." 1 stone, 1 throw, and the giant fell. The crowd erupted in joy. Israel's army charged forward, and David became an overnight hero. It seemed like the perfect ending, right? But life isn't a fairy tale with an immediate happy ever after. After came Saul, the king who anointed David, who applauded him at first, but who became his relentless hunter. Saul, with his envy corroding his soul, chasing David for years, forcing him to flee to caves, to live like an outlaw in arid deserts and treacherous mountains. Imagine this. Saul, once a leader chosen by God, now consumed by jealousy that drove him to hurl spears at David while he played the harp to soothe the king. He sent David on suicide missions, hoping the Philistines would kill him, and when that failed, he mobilized 3,000 men to hunt him like an animal. Goliath was an external enemy, visible, who fell with a stone. Saul was the enemy disguised as an ally, attacking from inside the palace, from the heart, turning applause into traps. And there's the first revelation. Our greatest enemies are often not the obvious ones, the ones that roar loudly like Goliath. They're the ones that whisper, that infiltrate our routine, like a crack in the wall of a house you thought was safe, growing, slowly until it threatens the whole structure. Think about your everyday life. That co-worker who smiles to your face but sabotages behind your back, spreading rumors that undermine your reputation. Or worse, that inner voice saying, "You're not good enough," echoing like Saul in David's dark nights, when he hid in damp caves, wondering if God still saw him. It's paradoxical, isn't it? We defeat one giant and think we're free. But the real test comes after, in the persistence of the hidden enemy, that doesn't fall with one blow but erodes our peace drop by drop. Now imagine a seed planted in fertile soil. It sprouts, grows, but then comes the weed, suffocating slowly, rooting where we least expect. Saul was that weed for David, not a fatal blow, but a constant erosion day after day, year after year. Second revelation, God allows these Sauls to shape us, to teach us the patience that a quick victory like against Goliath could never provide. David could have killed Saul twice, in the caves when he had the chance, once cutting the corner of his robe while Saul slept, another stealing his spear and water jug, but he chose mercy. Why? Because he saw beyond the envy. Saul was a divine instrument, refining the future king like a goldsmith melts gold to remove impurities. What if your toughest enemies, that betrayal from a friend who stabs you in the back, that endless financial struggle keeping you up at night counting pennies, were actually God's tools to strengthen you? It's unexpected, but think about it. Like a diamond forms under immense pressure, crushed by layers of earth, David became king not despite Saul, but because of him, learning lessons of humility and dependence that an easy crown would never bring. Third revelation, the greatest enemy isn't always the other, but what it awakens in us like an echo revealing hidden flaws. David, fleeing from Saul, composed psalms of lament and praise, verses born from pain, like Psalm 57, where he cries, "Have mercy on me, my God, for in you my soul takes refuge. I will take refuge in the shadow of your wings until the disaster has passed." He danced in pain, found God in the shadows of the caves, turning persecution into eternal poetry. Simple analogy. It's like a broken mirror, reflecting not just the face but the cracks of the soul. Saul reflected David's weaknesses, pride, fear, forcing him to confront them and grow. In your modern life, imagine this in the chaotic traffic of a big city like São Paulo or Rio. You fight with a reckless driver who cuts you off, horns blaring. But the real enemy is the anger exploding inside you, not the car ahead. That fury that consumes you and makes you question who you really are. Or at work, dealing with an oppressive boss like Saul, demanding and envious of your potential. What if that's the catalyst for you to discover your true calling, your hidden anointing, pushing you out of your comfort zone to pursue dreams that seemed impossible? Fourth, revelation, and this will surprise you. David's greatest enemy wasn't Goliath or even Saul, but the potential to become like them, to let envy or pride take root in his own heart. David saw Saul fall into the madness of envy, consulting mediums and ignoring God's voice, and it taught him to guard his own heart, to choose integrity even when revenge seemed sweet. Paradox here, the king who persecuted David saved him from himself, showing what happens when we ignore God's voice, like a road leading to the abyss. Apply this today. In a world of social media full of comparisons where envy is the new giant, scrolling through feeds, seeing perfect lives that aren't real, what if your Saul, maybe a rival on Instagram or a jealous relative, is the reminder that true victory is internal, choosing humility over retaliation, posting gratitude instead of hate? David didn't strike back with hate. He waited for God's timing, composing psalms that still inspire us. Let's deepen with a fifth revelation. Saul's persecution didn't just shape David individually, but built a network of loyal allies, turning outcasts into faithful companions. While fleeing, David gathered 400 discontented men, debtors, the bitter society's margins, who saw in him a leader who understood suffering, and these became the backbone of his future kingdom. Without Saul, without that constant flight, David wouldn't have this unlikely team. Think of it like a storm that topples dead trees, clearing space for new ones. In real life, entrepreneurs face bankruptcies or betrayals from partners, these Sauls that seem like the end, but actually clear the path for better partnerships, innovations that arise from adversity, like a startup reborn stronger after a collapse. Sixth revelation, the victory over Saul wasn't a physical battle, but spiritual, and its legacy is eternal, echoing through the centuries. David reigned for 40 years, composed psalms that inspire billions, and his lineage led directly to Jesus, the promised Messiah. Goliath was forgotten like a footnote. Saul is remembered as a living lesson of how envy destroys. But David's true triumph was internal. He became a man after God's own heart, as it says in Acts 13:22, a title no crown could buy. In the digital age, where hidden enemies like cyberbullying or social pressure chase us through screens, remember, these struggles can produce eternal fruits, like David's psalms, turning pain into something that touches souls for generations. And there's the turnaround. The hidden divine purpose wasn't just to make David a king, but a man after God's own heart, someone who would transform nation and history. Saul prepared the ground for that, turning persecution into purpose, forging character amid chaos. Now reflect, what if your greatest enemies are preparing you for something greater, a mission you can't even imagine? Don't fight them with the wrong weapons, with anger or revenge. Use faith, patience like David waiting for the divine moment. Rise up today, carry this truth in your chest and move forward, because what almost knocked you down might be what lifts you up, shaping you into someone unshakable. Share this seed with someone facing their own Saul, for the transformation that starts in you can ignite the light in another's life, spreading hope like ripples in a calm lake.